Welcome, all 10 of you, to my, this Seraphon. We're finally getting our rules. We're finally getting our book. We saw the lore yesterday, but today, oh my god, today. So, these just went up about an hour ago, 30 minutes ago. And boy, oh boy. The Seraphon are going to be playing so much differently, or it's just going to be so much more powerful, guys. I really think this is huge. So I don't want to bury the lead. Let's get into this. So we have the rules. We now know that we can be star demons and real lizards at the same time. So now both people are happy. And there's actually rules for both, which is really, really interesting. Just make sure it's still recording. It is. Um, so when it talks about just wondering how it's going to play on a table, well, let's find out, guys. And can we get these terrain pieces? I mean, I know Osiark Bone Reapers have been asking for their terrain pieces in the background of their stuff, but oh my goodness, I want those terrain pieces. And the army looks so good, by the way. So, for everyone, because as it goes on to later, there's actually two different, what would you say, mega factions of the Seraphon beyond just the regular sub factions that everyone else got. But for everyone, we have Contemplations of the Ancient Ones. This is basically the same thing we have currently. That our Slan can pick a new spell to know at the end of the hero phase. It's something I haven't really used much because Slans are usually spending their time summoning things. But Slans may not be doing that as much anymore. We'll discuss that in a minute. But they also say the specifically lore of Celestial Domination. Does that mean we get two different spells? Spell tables? I really hope so. But no, it's a fine ability. This next one, though, is crazy. So this is a renamed the Sacred Asterisms. This is the same thing as our Slans, the Celestial Conjuration. Or, no, not Celestial Conjuration, that's summoning. But they're Constellation Summoning. That was the random dice roll, and you got the random effect. Because it says that one of the effects is like the Hunter's Steed. Add one to run and charge rolls for friendly Seraphon units. But now the important thing is it lets us choose them now. And from the preview yesterday, we saw the names Hunter's Steed, Wizard Staff, and Dracothian Tail, I think. I'm just going to double check that. But anyways, the important part of that is that those three abilities still have names, and those abilities were really good if they were the ones that you wanted, right? Because the problem was that they weren't always what you wanted, but now if you could just pick them, oh my goodness, if I can just pick at the beginning, if they're anything like they are currently, I just get +1 to my casting, potentially unbinding and dispelling rolls. Yes, please. Yes, please. Or if I'm a really melee focused army and I can be like, oh, I just want to reroll once to hit for the entire army. Because, it still probably will affect the entire army. This affects the entire army. This is so good for if you're going to go crazy teleporty, which, by the way, is still a thing. Now you have 8-inch charges after a teleport. Yep. And I am pulling it up here. It wasn't Dracothian Tail, because that's the Wizard Staff, Hunter's Steed, the Great Drake. Dracothian Tail, he's a dragon. Alright, so I will see if those have changed at all, but I mean, this is identical to what it currently is. And that's what everyone gets. Now we're going to go into the two mega factions. So before you get your sub faction, you pick which two types of Seraphon you are. You're either Starborn or coalesce. So you're either the space demons, or you're the ones that have been living in the mortal realms for long enough that you're more or less real lizardmen. But everyone comes from Starborn. This is the first thing. Starborn, just to briefly summarize, are more or less the same thing we play now. They get Lords of Space and Time, as you see here. Big important change, though. It's at the end of the movement phase that you teleport now. That's huge. It's quite a nerf, because before you could, we had the ability to teleport twice in the hero phase, so we could teleport slant forward, have him cast spells or whatever, teleport him back to safety. We won't be able to do that in hero phase anymore. It's all in the end of the movement phase. So We'll see how it jives with other abilities. One thing that is later on, this jives with really well because it happens at the same time, and when things happen at the same time in Age of Sigmar during your turn, you can pick priority of what happens when. So this is still a very powerful ability. Don't think it that this nerf is it's useless now. It's terrible. This is still really good. And then the other boon for the Starborn is that they're now unfeeling, so their bravery goes back up to 10. If you saw in the same preview from Sunday, you could just barely see the card for the Saurus Old Blood, and he had a bravery of 8. So everyone was like, oh, we lost our bravery 10. Well, if you're Starborn, you're back up to bravery 10, and that is for everyone, because everyone will get the Starborn keyword. So it's identical to what we have. And I'm sorry, I almost forgot, but back up here, they do talk about that they are blessed with the ability to summon new reinforcements to the battlefield. So the Starborn get the summoning mechanic. Whether it's the same or different, we don't know. Given how GW operates, I imagine it's the same or fairly similar. One hopes that maybe there's a backdoor for the Slan able to still spellcast, because that's the complaint everyone has, right? That we can't summon and spellcast unless we bring 2 Slan. But I mean, hey, maybe with the points changes, maybe bringing 2 Slan is going to be appropriate. Who knows? But that's the Starborn. They're basically what we currently have. And I don't think there was anything else extra that they got. Just reading, they're powerful, flexible, objective-based play, which, if they do play anything like they currently play, Starborn may still be the way to go. We'll see. We shall see. But now the Coalesce. This is the other mega faction that you can pick from. And they're pretty much the real dudes. And they have potential. We'll have to see the book ourselves, how it all jives together, but it's possible. We'll see. We'll see if both mega factions are equal in power, or maybe we'll just lean towards one or the other. We shall see. But like I said, they're the real ones. And and so they get predatory fighters. They add 1 to the attack characteristics of Jaws attacks used by their units. So Jaws are things that Saurus attack with. But I would love to see them really define what exactly do Jaws attack mean, because things like Ripterdactyls have their beak attacks, and there's confusion when you have other rules that affect jaw attacks, and it's like, well, beak and jaw, they're the same thing, but they're not. And so I really hope that they just define what jaw weapons are. Are they weapons that specifically say jaw? It could be that simple as that. I just hope that that's all it is. Next to tech school, usually the jaw weapons aren't that good. We'll see what the new stats say. They don't preview any of those. But extra attacks can be good. And this one's a crazy one. The Scaly Skin. Subtract 1 from damage inflicted by each successful attack that targets a coalesce unit. That's everybody. You can reduce damage by 1 to a minimum of 1 for your little dudes, all the way up to your big Carnosaurs. This is huge. This is crazy big. This is even bigger if rumor/speculation is we believe that Saurus warriors and Saurus can go up to 2 wounds each instead of 1. Then, if that's the case, then Coalesce are really jiving for that spot, because now you're saying that you need 3 damage weapons to kill 1 per swing. Huge. And D3 weapons are only effective a third of the time. Yeah. And like I said, this is just a great ability for your big dinosaurs as well when they get hit by the big weapons. I mean, this is Age of Sigmar. This is not 40k. I play 40k a lot. And so reducing damage by 1 to 40k is like, okay, cool. But, sometimes you get hit by the D6 damage with 6 damage, and you're like, oh, no. I took 5 instead of 6. It's still a big swing. Age of Sigmar, the damage is nowhere near as high most of the time. And especially because damage carries over. I just realized that, because damage carries over in Age of Sigmar. So now, not only is this protecting the one dude, this is protecting his buddy. I don't think it'll stack multiple times, because you just subtract 1 from the damage inflicted by that successful attack. But say you're getting hit by the 3 damage weapon, and our Saurus are still at 1 wound as they currently are, which might change, who knows? But if they're still at the 1 wound, instead of 3 dying, only 2 die. Oh, well, that's good. That's really good. That's really good. Then they also say here you get to ignore negative terrain effects in your table half, as well as bravery modifiers. So keep in mind that bravery modifiers is important because they don't have bravery 10. We don't know the different braveries. The Source Old Blood Little Hero had 8, which means that everyone might have 8. They might have lower. Who knows? I imagine Slans will have 10 no matter what, but we'll have to see. But ignoring negative terrain modifiers in your table half. So depending on mission, that can either be really good or all right. But I can think of so many things like Sylvaneth trees, Ideneth boats, the Osiric Bone Reaper temple thing. That's all negative effects. And if you're sitting in your table and they're like, "Oh, I want to make your slan -1 to cast" or whatever, you can be like, "I'm in my table half, bro. I don't care." That's really good. Coalesce are really fighting for that position. Can they beat this current Starborn play of I'm all over the table, teleporting, and so many new units? We'll have to see what the rest of the army goes. And now for the sub-faction. So like I said, you pick your mega faction. You pick either are you Coalesce or are you Starborn. And then you can pick the sub-faction, which is what everyone else normally gets. The different, so like Osiric Bone Reapers have Petrifex Elite and stuff. This is our stuff. And from what I read here, it says both Coalesced and Starborn armies can be further customized with choice of sub-factions for each, offering you even wider range of playstyles. I imagine that you get to have 6, like everyone else has, but you can just pick which one you are. So you can be, for example, Dracothian Tail is one, Sotek, Fangs of Sotek is another, but you can be Dracothian Tail Starborn or Coalesced. Is how I'm reading this. There might be dedicated ones to each of the mega ones, but I have a feeling that you can really customize where it's like, well, I'm Dracothian Tail both times, but I can be Starborn or Coalesced, which play drastically differently. We'll have to see. But they come out of the gate swinging with this one, man. Dracothian's Tail. So they read up here that this appears to be just their ability. But it says, instead of setting up friendly Dracothian Tail unit on a battlefield, you can place it to one side and say that it is set up going to appear at command as a reserve unit. Let me check something here. Oh, good, my face is on the way. You can set up one reserve unit waiting to appear at the command for each friendly Dracothian Tail unit already on a battlefield. This probably sounds very familiar to those who ran the Dracothian Tail. My goodness. Italian. And at the end of your movement phase, you can set up one or more of those reserve units to appear at the command of the battlefield more than 9 inches away and wholly within 18 of a friendly Dracothian Tail slan. Any reserve units waiting to appear are destroyed. So this thing has been buffed like crazy compared to the old version. So this is what I was talking about earlier with the teleport. If you're a Starborn, you can end the movement phase, teleport your slan to a reasonable position. You then do this and bring down the other half of your army or whatever. And we may have access to a second teleport like we currently do. We'll have to see. But anyways, you can bring them all down, and both of these happen at the end of the movement phase. So you can just pick which happens first. You teleport a slan, you bring everything down, and now you can pick Hunter's Steed, and maybe everything will charge, and now you have 8-inch charges for half the army. Yeah, and this is even better because in the old Dracothian Tail, you can only bring down 1 unit per war scroll. So you can only bring 1 unit of Saurus, 1 unit of a Carnosaur, etc. This doesn't have that limitation. So you can pick your best unit and just be like, all right, I'm going to teleport down my 5 full blocks of Sauruses and just charge them in. So good. And this can be really good for the Coalesce too. Because this can give them the teleport. Maybe because it's the end of the movement phase, you can try and run your slan up to wherever he's got to be, and then you teleport him down. If that is indeed how these sub factions will work, that they can be both Coalesced or Starborn. And I think that is how it works. That seems to be both how it works. The next one they show here is the Fangs of Sotek. They give the bonuses that they add 3 inches to move characteristic for skink units. Keep in mind that includes Croxagors, Stegodons, Bastillodons, regular skinks, the different little skink units like chameleon skinks. Who knows how they'll be like? Those rules will have to change. And are Riprodactyls skinks? They might be. They might have the skink keyword. They should have the skink keyword. Alright. Sorry, everybody. So Seraphon, Battletome. Well, I'm looking at this. We'll look on to the next one. The next one they have is Qual's Claw. I assume that's how you say that. This one's for your Saurus. You get to add 1 to hit rolls for attacks made when they charge. Pretty good. They'll show off later the stat line for Saurus on their club attacks. That indeed now you're going to be hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s with a -1 Ren, 1 damage on charging Sauruses, which is pretty good. Let's see, Riprodactyls. Yeah, skink. So now, if the first to the battle, you add 3 inches to Riprodactyl's move. It's like skink. Well, they move 8. Why would I want a whole thing that moves 3 additional inches? It's like, well, now we probably don't have the deploy 3 inches away Riprodactyl shenanigans that we used to play with or Pterodon. So now it's important that maybe to get that extra movement to get those guys in. So this is a good one, depending on how you want to build your army. And this one can also be a good one. They also show the command trait for this one. That you roll a dice for each time this general is used to issue a command to a Saurus unit. This is particular. On a 4-up, you receive an additional command point. Pretty good. Pretty good. Recycling command points. I just hope there's things to spend command points on now. If you play current Seraphon, I just rack up pools of command points and don't have anything really to spend it on. With the coalesce, I imagine that'll change because Saurus love their command points. It's just that Starborn are more of the skink slan play, and that's what we currently have. And skinks don't care about command abilities basically ever. But Saurus love command points. They just eat them up. So this is pretty good if you're doing Saurus. And they do have a sentence here that talks about the Thunder Lizards that lets you feel nothing but super durable Stegodons. And they'll be previewing them later this week, so I'll probably do a video on that when that comes out, because that'll be interesting to see. Because they're really hyping it up. They talked about it on the Sunday video, they're talking about it here, and they're going to dedicate apparently a whole article to just that. Alright. Fair enough. Top War Scroll changes, thank God. If there was one worry, was that, well, they were going to be lazy and just copy-paste everything over from the old book. But so many of our things just needed buffs in places. Our War Scrolls are just old, and they needed update. Boy, did they update, especially this guy. Oh, my God. Troglodons are nuts, depending on how point-costed they are. I mean, if they're as cheap as they are now, auto-include. But I'll talk about that in a second. So they talk about how many of them have been updated. Some changes are small, others are pretty significant. The Skink Oracle on Troglodon is a significant one. He's now a wizard, which is huge, because now he can cast endless spells and all of his own spells, and he has a handy ability, and his spell is kind of ridiculous. I do have to have one caveat here. There was an error in this article earlier when they first uploaded it. It's soon been fixed. And the spell that they say is for the Troglodon might be an error because it's actually one of Croak's spells, but it hasn't been fixed. So I'll just take it at face value at this moment. So he's a fully fledged lizard, and he's Oracle of Slain. He gets +1 to casting, dispelling, and unbinding rolls. In addition, he can do the Slan thing and unbind and dispel spells from anywhere on the battlefield. Good, so good. Oh my goodness. I have to imagine, because this is the Oracle of the Slan, that Slans will have some abilities similar to this. Maybe it'll be identical to this. Maybe they'll even get an additional to casting. That'd be cool. But that's speculation on my part. But this is so good for the Troglodon. Skink Oracle on Troglodon. I wonder if that means we'll get different versions of Troglodons. That'd be cool. But his spell is Comet's Call. This is to be believed. Oh my goodness. Because this spell is so good. It's Croak spell. You cast on 7. You pick D3 different units on the battlefield. Anywhere on the battlefield. You don't even need line of sight to them. You inflict D3 mortal wounds to them. You don't even need to hit them. You just do D3 mortals to D3 units on the field. And if you're casting at a 10 plus, you pick D6 units. And this is so good for sniping. Because you can pick those really squishy heroes in the back and be like D3, D3, D3. And you're getting +1 to cast anyway. This is so good. Like I said, depending on what he's costed, Troglodons they can all of a sudden appear on the table. They might actually be worth taking. This is what I was talking about earlier. Saurus, they get additional rend on their clubs. I imagine this means that their spears will be the same to hit and a wound, but without the rend. That's what it is in OCR Bone Reapers, and I played them too. That's the difference between the clubs, or their swords and their spears, is the rend. So one attack's a little disappointing, but they talk about here that if you're in a unit of 15 or more, you get an additional attack. So can't complain there. And if they stay as cheap as they are, it's not bad. Not bad at all. I mean, most units pay quite the premium for more attacks. OCR Bone Reapers is a great example. So we'll just have to see how it's costed. And again, if sources are 2 wounds, this is just all good news. We'll just have to see. And this is the last bit. Bound Endless Spells. I am so happy I painted all my Endless Spells. So lots of Age of Sigmar armies have Endless Spells, have mastery over them like no other. Special bound versions of the standard Endless Spells found in the Malign Sorcery set offer the same powerful benefits as their counterparts with a key twist. Bound predatory spells can only be moved by a player using a Seraphon army. No more watching Purple Suns and Geminids of Ulgish crash into your own units. Just utter magical destruction at your command. What glorious shenaniganry is that? They have, of course, a picture of Purple Sun, which is what everyone probably will default to be like, well, I can just pop it out and only I can control it. So good. Especially if we still have the same bonuses. So like my theory about the Slan having something similar to what the Oracle on the Troglodon has, an innate bonus. If we can then do the Wizard Staff as anything like the current iteration is, where you get another +1 to cast. It'd be so easy to cast these things. I just hope that, again, if you're Starborn and you're summoning, can you still spellcast and summon at the same time? We'll just have to see. That is probably the big question. Now, they do talk about that it's just the endless spells found in the Malign Sorcery, so it's not the ones in Unbound Power, or wherever it was that had the other endless spells in it. But that's fine, because the Malign Sorcery endless spells are the better ones anyway. I don't find myself ever wanting to bring the ones from the Power Unbound or whatever on earth that one is. It's just they're just not as good. So yeah, this is all good. This is all good. We also get the. I suppose I can go back and look at the Saturday preview, or Sunday, excuse me. Just to talk real fast about our Realm Shaper engines. I'm curious if this will be limited to just Coalesce, because its lore is that this has been placed down in the realms and it's now terraforming the terrain around it. But they also say that you can make it as like this jungle enraptured temple, or you can make it fresh, clean, as if it just beamed down from space. So I imagine both Starborn and Coalesce can use it. But it lets you turn terrain features into deadly traps. I imagine it makes them, if you walk through the terrain, you suffer D3 mortal wounds on a 2-up or something like that. And who knows what else this does. We do know what else it does, but it lets you garrison your Seraphon with a wizard or a priest is capable to activate the device. And if you're familiar with KO, they just had their garrison rules, and I reviewed it when I read this. You can still spellcast and do all your rules and everything from that, so you can garrison your Slan in here if he plays anything like he currently does, and he can activate the engine, and he can sling his spells, and he can do his summoning if that's all the same. But now he's protected more or less because inside a garrison you are -1 to hit and are considered in cover. So yes, all good things. Did they mention anything else? Also, this is pretty trollsy against Sylvaneth players where they're like, look, I've grown trees everywhere, and then you look at your terraforming temple and you're just like, and those trees are now mine. We'll see how it stacks up with rules like that, but I mean, this thing's cool. I love this thing. This is like the preview I was talking about where you can see Bravery 8, and he's got more attacks on everything, which is all good news. The Old Blood also has an ability that when he hits on a 6, it counts as 2 hits. Pretty common ability. I wouldn't be surprised if even regular Saurus get this. It's very similar to their Predatory Fighter ability from the Old World, from the Lizardman 8th Edition book. And this command ability gives them a Saurus a +1 to hit. It's good. It's good. It's good. Now you're hitting on 2s with this plus the, if you're Coatl one with the +1 to hit when you're charging, 2s to hit, 3s to wound at -1. Okay. That could be a lot. That could be a lot. So yeah, this is my video about the Seraphon. I want to go back to that really cool picture with those ginormous Aztec space temples. Yeah. This is all looking good. Seraphon, we've waited so long. Probably the longest design time. I was hoping that GW spent their time wisely because we were one of the first, if not like the second or third book out in the entire game of Age of Sigmar, and we've waited this long to get our book. I was hoping that they were going to give us a lot of design, and it looks like they have. This is all very exciting. We'll see what the Thunder Lizards entail. That we at least know that article is coming maybe tomorrow. We shall see. I'll be just interested to see what all the changes are for all these War Scrolls. I imagine some are just going to be, like the Troglodyte has been completely reworked. Now he's a spellcaster and can, what does Croak do? Because the Skink Oracle has Comet Call. That's Croak's spell, or at least one of his spells. So what does Croak do? That's a great question. So all good things, guys. I'm super excited. So I will see you guys later. Maybe later this week I'll do another video. And this book can't come fast enough. See you all later.